Scott, you were up there yesterday at MetLife Stadium. And before we get to Grayson's grades, just give us the mood in the locker room now. Again, they lose on the road. I know each time that losses happen, it gets like more tense, and it just keeps getting a little tougher in those locker rooms to ask those questions. It gets to that point where, the excitement of a season all of a sudden turns into, when is this thing going to end? I mean, what is the feeling halfway through the year yesterday after another road loss?
Well, you kind of been hearing what some of the guys are saying in these updates here that, to me, I was a little surprised, quite frankly, that there's still not really the finger-pointing going on. At least not publicly. I know there's a little bit of it. There's a little bit of Zach Ertz saying, why am I not getting the ball? And then he got 8 catches yesterday. There's a little bit of, different guys trying to almost say that, they want more responsibility. But for the most part, the different levels of or layers of frustration, you can feel, though, they're getting peeled away. They're getting peeled away, and this team is getting close to being at the core where they're going to start saying, the bus is leaving and we're not on it. And I think that's the point that they were all making yesterday, is that the season's not lost, but we have no more margin of error. And when you look at it, as I was saying to Pete when we both arrived here today, all the tiebreakers are not in favor of this team. So they're going to have to get a better record than these other teams, which, yes, the NFC is mediocre. The wild card race is wide open, but they got to really start winning some games, and they got to win games in division and in the NFC.
Well, you handed out 2 Fs yesterday. 3 Fs yesterday, excuse me.
Come on, don't shortchange me.
Doug Pederson's write-up was so long that I didn't see the one underneath of him. But let's start with Pederson. And we're talking about the decisions and the aggressiveness. And I get he's a rookie head coach, but that's reckless. Regardless of how many years you coach, 1, none, 15, I mean, that's a reckless decision. You don't have to be a veteran head coach to know that's reckless.
Well, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We had a guy here who did that and tried to do it, and the wheel's still round, and he's now in San Francisco. You got a guy that, look, my problem with Pederson was, number one, in the first half, just score points. Yes, you want touchdowns, but get field goals when they're there, and you chase points later in the game. You never know how it's going to play out, and the way it played out, they would have only needed a field goal at the end of the game instead of a touchdown had he done that. The second problem I had was on the one where they ran Sproles. I don't mind going for it there, but not the play that he chose to go with. And when you have guys like Smallwood, Matthews, Barner, for that matter, that can get you that 1 yard up the middle. You've got a 6'5" quarterback that if you get a push behind him, even with a running back and a line that can win something right off the line of scrimmage, just 1 yard, you could get it that way. Sproles off tackle, that to me is one of the worst play calls you could have when you need a yard. And I really think Sproles can be a lot more effective if they run a little bit more with the other guys and let his speed be a change of pace. That's the way it's always been effective in the past. That's where he can have his biggest factor. That's where Sproles, to me, is a guy you use between the 20s, not from the 20 to the end zone. So I really think that Pederson's got to get a better grip on his play calls. He's got to get a better grip on the decisions he's making. I think the defensive guys don't mind the fact he's showing confidence in them, but at the end of the day, when you're not getting those fourth down plays, they're frustrated that you're not putting points on the board, and it's an empty trip.
Not the only F you gave out, Scott. I hinted at one of your other Fs earlier in the program when I said this man was targeted 5 times and came up with Bupkis, nothing, zilch, 0. The empty set, null, void. Did I say nothing?
Yeah, you got it. I mean, you're talking about Dorial Green-Beckham. And, look, I was extremely disappointed. I felt like he looked like he was running lazy routes. I don't even know if you could say he was running them. He was getting chipped at the line. And for a guy his size, 6'6", you win the battle at the line of scrimmage, you've won. All you have to do now is catch the ball. But he never, and you can see Wentz, it clearly was not on the same page with him. However it's going in practice, Wentz expects him to be here, and because he's running so lazy and getting bumped and not fighting through the contact, he's 5 yards short of where the ball's being thrown. It's awful. He's the guy who really needs to assert himself inside the red zone and say, that's my spot on the field. Come to me. And at the end of the game, maybe it's him that should be getting the ball and not Jordan Matthews. And I don't blame Wentz for not looking his way because he was clearly unreliable.
And not all doom and gloom in the receiving corps, though, because it looks like after maybe there was a bit of a production problem between the two of them that Carson Wentz has figured out he has a tight end he can throw to in Zach Ertz.
Yeah, and I was picking at Zach a little bit after the game when I talked to him because, Zach was one who was kind of, he's one who said, look, I want the ball more. Well, you have to go out there, and he acknowledged you have to go out there and you have to earn some of those opportunities. And I asked him, I said, is that some of that belief in a receiver that a quarterback will have, that relationship, is some of that come from actually doing it in the game and the belief that you're going to be there and you're going to catch the ball? And he said, look, I had 8 targets. I caught all 8 of them. I look at it as my ball. Throw it to me. I will get it. And he just basically said, yeah, if we do it in the game, by me doing it in the game, I'm paraphrasing here, but I expect him to look my way more.
Scott Grayson's got Grayson's grades posted at 973ESPN.com. McKelvin, and he was quite explicit after the game.
Then he said that they weren't targeting him. I mean, what game are you watching?
Yeah,
they targeted him all right. In fact, according to Pro Football Focus, he had maybe one of the worst days of all players in the NFL yesterday. He was targeted 4 times. He gave up 4 catches for 83 yards and 2 touchdowns. He allowed a perfect passer rating of 158.3 when he was targeted. I mean, this was the guy that was supposed to be their best cover guy. When they got him back, it was going to be a boost to the secondary. He hasn't helped at all.
Well, this game more than any other one, it just looked like he was unprepared. I mean, if you're watching film, you should see some tendencies. You should at least have yourself in a little better position. He just looked unprepared. He looked out of it. He looked like his head was in a different place. It wasn't at MetLife Stadium, and he got benched at the end of the first half on that last drive. Did come back out in the second half. But, yeah, I mean, he was clearly picked on, and he was mad after the game at himself. He did at least take ownership of his performance, but, can't have it. I mean, for as bad as the Eagles played, they were in the game at the end of it. And if he makes a play, if Carson doesn't throw those 2 picks. But, look, one of them, if you keep them out of the end zone on one of those picks that Carson threw, which he gave up the slant to Odell. I mean, and what's with the cushion?
Start way off.
If there's a guy you're going to play up on and try to disrupt timing with, isn't it Odell Beckham with his speed? Why do you want to give him a free release?
The way that first touchdown went down, you're thinking to yourself,
it's going to be a long day.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Well, we talked about it on Friday where he had not caught a touchdown pass in the first half of any game this year, and it was like, look, we got to get this guy involved early in the game, and they went right to him.
The book on the Giants, and it's clear as day, hit Eli early in the game and frustrate Odell Beckham Jr. He'll take care of being cancer on the sideline the rest of the game. And you didn't hit Eli. You didn't get to him, really, in the first half. And you let Odell score 2 touchdowns. He's off and going. He's in a great mood. And that's it. I mean, and for all intents and purposes, I mean, honestly,
and Roger Lewis scored 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whoever that was.